Here's the thing, I filmed a different version of this video the other day. I sat down and spoke to camera for an hour and a half, which is so much longer than it usually takes me to film a video, and all it did was leave me with a whole lot of miserable, boring, bad vibes footage that I am not gonna use. Hello, welcome back to Slaggy Book Club, the book club that is everything but a book club. I'm Cameron, and I want to tell you about the books that stood out for me last year. Now that time has passed and we are getting quite deep into 2025, which books that I read in 2024 do I still think about? Do I still feel like were standout reads? And now I went to film this the other day and I thought maybe it would be boring if I just sat down and once again, like every other video, went, okay, and the next book is this, and let me talk about the book, okay, and the next book is this. Like, are we getting tired of that format? And so I thought, how do I make this video more interesting? And I've seen people do reading 1-star reviews of their favorite books or whatever. And so I thought, what if I read 1-star reviews of the best books that I read in 2024? That would be so funny. I don't know how creators do those videos. Sitting down and scrolling through negative reviews is so miserable. I feel like I was under the impression, because of these videos that I've watched of people reading out funny 1-star reviews, that if you were to go on Goodreads and scroll through the 1-star reviews, that they would be funny and ridiculous and silly and comical and just like a bit of a laugh. But the majority of them are not like that. The majority of them are people who so passionately disliked these books that they logged onto Goodreads, gave it 1 star, and then wrote about how passionately they disliked it. And it's so much negative energy, so much negativity and bad vibes, and scrolling through that endlessly trying to find the odd funny one was just not fun. Props to the creators who do successfully create those videos. They are funny to watch because you pull out the funny 1-star reviews. But there are a lot of passionately hateful people in Goodreads, and immersing yourself in that, not a good time. So instead, I'm just going to talk you through the 15 books that stand out to me from 2024. I'm just going to walk you through them and say good things about them, and it's going to be positive vibes. I've spoken about these books repeatedly before, so this is just like your go-to, hey, here's 15 books that I think are stellar. If you want them in more depth, there will be me talking about them in a bunch of other videos all over the internet. So I read 65 books last year, which is a lot. Go me, wow. And as it turns out, a lot of them were forgettable. And I always find it really funny to look back on everything that I read in a year and realize how many books did not stick with me, that I completely forgot I read, and consider the fact that they probably could have been DNFs. And it's a nice reminder to sort of be like, yeah, hey, if you're not vibing with a book, if you're feeling like it's just fine, is there any point in continuing reading it, or is it going to become one of these books that you don't even remember that you read? But there are also a lot of standouts that I continue to recommend, that I continue to think about, that I feel like I only read like a week or so ago, you know, when they stay really fresh in your mind. So these are those books. And I'm going to dive right in with the first one being actually the first book that I read at all last year. The very first book of the year remained a standout, and it was a highly, highly anticipated one for me. And so I was very excited and very nervous to finally read it. A Certain Hunger by Chelsea G. Summers. You guys surely would have seen me raving. I'm not going to say that because I'm going to say it for every book. It's true for every book. You will have seen me raving about all of these if you follow me. A Certain Hunger by Chelsea G. Summers. This is a food writer come convicted murderer. It's super pretentious. It's super funny. Pretentious in a funny way though, right? When I was looking at the negative reviews, a lot of people criticize it for being pretentious. For me, I read that as like, yeah, Chelsea has written a pretentious psychopath as her protagonist. It's funny as. Like, it's very much giving Eliza Clark kind of vibes. I adored this book. Next one is Just Friends by Gyan Yankovich. I actually don't have it on me because I have lent it out to a friend. It is a nonfiction book that explores the different forms that friendship can take in people's lives, from, you know, your lifelong bestest, closest school friend to work friends to internet friends to found family, all these different shapes that friendship can take and how each of those are important. And it interrogates this whole societal idea that romantic love is more important than platonic love. My only critique of this book is that I wanted more from it. I adored it. I love writing on friendship. I really, really do. I love being reminded how special my friends and my friendships are. Being sort of forced to love and cherish my friends. Not that without being forced to do that, I don't do that, but it's just sort of like, I love reading a book that's like, do you realize how nice it is do you realize how special your friends are? Do you know what I mean? And that's what this book felt like. It was so heartwarming, beautiful, and I have lent it out to all of my friends because of that. And another Australian nonfiction, Bite Back by Hannah Ferguson, very, very prescient at the moment with the election coming up. Bite Back is a pretty much entry-level guide into approaching the Australian media landscape, but also Australian politics, through a feminist lens, how to sort of interrogate these things and critically think about them. People have critiqued this as being like nothing new. Oh, once again, a white woman is telling us the fucking basic fundamentals of feminism. First of all, I don't think that's an inherently bad thing. There are always going to be people who need entry-level resources. But I also think that there is a lot new that Hannah has to offer, and the very specific focus on Australian media and Australian politics is very useful. Evenings and Weekends by Oisin McKenna. Some people love this, some people despise this. Some people find this really boring. This is a literary fiction character study. So yeah, don't expect to go into it and expect like plot and thrilling twists and, you know, characters doing crazy stuff. I found it really, really beautiful. It is by an Irish author, and I just, you know, Irish authors just have this way of like hitting you right in the heart. It follows a sort of circle of characters who are slightly connected and intertwined in different ways on one hot summer day in London, and they all have their own sort of internal battle that they're navigating, and they're all keeping it from each other, and it's just a reminder to fucking talk to the people that you love, you know? Rogue outlier, but well, another Australian non-fic, because you know I love those. What's for Dinner by Dr. Jill Griffiths. This is just about food production in Australia. Each chapter is a food type. There is an apples chapter. There is a potatoes chapter. There is a chicken chapter. And she uses each of these foods as sort of jumping off points for that particular industry and things that are important for us to learn about. I found this endlessly fascinating. I was shocked at how fascinated I was by this book, but it blew my mind in so many ways. I loved learning about everything that Jill wrote about. I feel so much more conscious of what I eat now. I want to start a veggie patch. I unfortunately don't live in a house that makes that possible, but as soon as I do, I will be growing my own vegetables as much as I can. There is so much to take from this book, and if you have any interest in what you eat and you're Australian, I recommend you pick this up. Greta and Valdin by Rebecca K. Reilly. Very funny, very contemporary. Greta and Valdin are siblings. They have an eccentric family. There's chaos. It's just a fun time. Again, not a lot of plot. Go in expecting a literary character study. That's what a lot of these books are. That's what we read. That's why we're here. But the characters in this are awesome. They're very fun. They're very silly. They're very crazy. Sometimes they're fucking insufferable. And I love that because they feel very human. This, like I said, has a lot of very contemporary humor. It is set in New Zealand. It's very close to home. Niche references. It's a good time. Good vibes, good time. All Fours by Miranda July. I just discovered that I don't have my copy with me. Oh, I lent it to my friend who is now indefinitely overseas. So goodbye to my copy of All Fours. But you know what? I'm glad I spread the love. I'm glad that I was able to share the book with other people because 10 out of 10, such an awesome, fun story. I loved the themes that it dealt with, you know, female desire, menopause, the fact that the protagonist is older, you know, it's not another like woman in her 20s, la la la. Like, we're dealing with different things. We're dealing with a protagonist at a different stage of life. It's very raw. It's very like unflinching and honest and real and gritty and messy. What I find funny is quite a few of the negative reviews that I saw when I was doing my scrolling were people being like, oh my God, like this woman is terrible. Do people actually behave like this? This is completely unrelatable. It's like, well, yeah, it's like a silly, like, woman behaving badly, like prioritizing herself fantasy. Why are you mad that you can't relate to this woman's experience? That's not the point. Anyway, I thought that it was a really fun read, but also a really sort of enlightening and empowering read. And I'm really glad that it has been shortlisted for the Women's Prize. Intermezzo by Sally Rooney. Of course, any year that Sally releases a book, it's probably going to be a big deal and stick with me. It is Sally Rooney. Admittedly, didn't really stick with me immediately after having read it. I read it a month or so before it came out, and then it came out, and I realized that I really hadn't thought about it after I finished it. I wasn't like spending that whole month like, oh my God, I can't wait for it to come out for the public so that we can all talk about it. Like, I just kind of let it go and moved on, and that was really interesting to think about. But now that even more time has passed, in hindsight, yes, this was a very impactful release last year, and it has stuck with me in the sense that I've continued to talk about it. I have continued to think about it now that, you know, the public have all read it and it is in the conversation. Is it my favorite Sally? Of course not. That will always be normal people. Did I have issues with the story? Of course, but let's not get into them. I still thought this was well done. I still appreciated the evolution of Sally's craft that is very present here. And I personally didn't take issue with Simon's chapters being so chaotic. I just thought that that worked. Peter? Why do I keep calling him Simon? Who the fuck is Simon? I didn't have an issue with Peter's chapters. I thought that they reflected his inner monologue. I would hate to live inside his head, but I didn't like hate the writing of that. You know what I mean? Old Enough by Reilly Jakobson. This is a beautiful balance between contemporary, very online, very youthful queer culture and also like the real dark shit of being a queer person, of being a young woman. I feel like it balances heavy and light themes really well. I had a very good time reading this book. Like, I really, really enjoyed my time with this book. Australia, I know it's really hard to get this book, but do not resort to Amazon because there are plenty of other ways to get it. You can ask your local bookstore to order it in. It just will take a little bit. It'll take a month or so for them to import it, but your local bookstore can order this book in, and it's like $1 more than buying it on Amazon. If you want to not wait, there's also a website, an Australian website that imports from overseas. That's called the Nile, like the river. Otherwise, I think it's like $11 on the Kobo store or something. So you do not need to use Amazon to get hard to find books. There are always other avenues, and your local bookstore most of the time can bring books in for you. Hood Feminism by Mikki, Kendall. I tabbed this. I very rarely tab, but this is just one of those books that you take so much from. It's one of those books that I'm gonna have to read again one day. There's a lot to take in, but I just found that the way that Mikki wrote was so digestible. Like, it really flowed. I can sometimes struggle with nonfiction that is highly informative, but I did not struggle with this book at all. I really appreciated the expansiveness of Mikki's perspective on feminism, how she really is able to apply it to so many aspects of society. I thought that it was a really interesting way of thinking about feminism as a concept. I took a lot away from this book. I learned a lot, and I am excited to dip back into it over the course of my life, really. Madwoman by Chelsea Bieker. I'm pretty sure I just forgot to grab it off my shelf just now. I think I have it. Who cares? This one stuck with me because I just felt so passionately that I needed to rave about it after I finished it. I can't pinpoint why I was so impressed by it, but I just thought that the writing was so impressive, the storytelling was so impressive, the narrative that Chelsea came up with. I was just in awe of the book the whole time, and the moment I finished it, I wanted to scream from the rooftops and tell everybody about it. Granted, since then, I've told a lot of people to read it who haven't enjoyed it, and I take that as a personal insult. I'm just kidding. But for me, I adored the book. Our protagonist is this woman who has built the perfect kind of looking life with a lovely husband and 2 gorgeous kids and a great house. But actually she has this dark past. And then one day a letter arrives in the mail from a women's prison, and it all just kind of starts to unravel, and that past starts to catch up with her. And we go down this rabbit hole and this ride with her. But as much as it deals with this really serious theme, she is fucking fed up with her kids, and everyone in the world annoys her, and actually she spends way much more money than she should at Whole Foods, but she's kind of addicted to this wellness aesthetic, and it has this humorous absurdist vibe as well. There's a twist at the end that I didn't see coming. Some people did, thought it was really obvious. Whatever. I think it's a really, really good book, and I think you should read it. Little Rut by Akwaeke Emezi. This is a really dark story, but it does say that it is set in the city of Lagos's corrupt underbelly. It says that it follows 5 people over the course of a weekend, which will brutally upend their lives. There are enough cues, I think, on the back of this to suggest that there's going to be some dark stuff going on in this book. Apparently not enough, according to some 1-star reviewers on Goodreads. A lot of people were not happy with how dark this book is and how much sort of awful stuff happens in it. Anyway, I think Akwaeke Emezi is one of the most talented authors today. I think that they have so much fucking range. I've read 3 books by them now. Freshwater, You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty, and now this. All 3 of these books so different. Akwaeke has also written YA, which I haven't read, obviously, but every single one of these books has been so well written, so good, perfectly paced, completely thrilling, utterly engaging. I just think that they have such a talent, and this book was everything that I expected from Akwaeke. Perfume and Pain by Anna Dorn. This is a fun, satirical, highly cringe, honestly, satire, though, about LA lesbians. Toxic fucking lesbians in LA. Our protagonist is a writer who kind of just got cancelled for saying something questionable, and she's returned to the writers group that she founded, and she joins, and there's this other woman in the writers group who she's attracted to, and they start this really toxic relationship, and everyone's just a bit fucking insufferable. Everyone sucks, but I loved going on the journey with the protagonist of this book. There were times where I fucking could not stand her. And then as you get to know her more, as you go on this journey through this book and learn more about her and her circumstances and her life, you really sympathize with her. And I think it's very actually thought out and well crafted, despite being just this chaotic, silly story. I find Anna Dorn as an author very fascinating. There are a million parallels between her and her protagonist in this book. There are also sort of subtle links between her previous book, Exalted, which I haven't read, and this. Her latest book is actually published, written by the protagonist from this. I feel as though Anna Dorn as an author has a lot of fun and is quite experimental. Oh my God. Get a grip. Experimental. And I really enjoy that. Like, I think the lore behind Anna Dorn's work really makes it. And finally, The Safekeep by Yael van der Valdin. You already know it. This was such a goddamn standout, and I almost put up a fight and didn't read it. I was like, look at that. That's a historical fiction for my mum. What do you mean it's good? What do you mean I'm gonna like it? Be so for real. I ate my words. I ate my thoughts. What did I know? Oh my god, nothing. I knew nothing. Jon Snow. This book is so sexy. This book is so sexy. Sure, technically, it's a historical fiction, but don't let that deter you like it did me. Okay, this is such a, first of all, beautiful story. Beautiful, gorgeous, very moving, very sort of quiet, but it's also really lusty and horny. And I don't want to give away the plot by saying that, so I'm just going to leave that there. And I'm just going to say, hey, if you're a person who reads romance novels and you're a fan of enemies to lovers. And that's it, guys. Those are the books that I read in 2024 that have still stuck with me to this day, that I still want to recommend endlessly to you. 15 of the 65 books that I read were absolute standouts. Much to think about. I want to know what the books are that stuck with you, that you read last year. What do you still think about? What do you still feel like you only read it a few days ago because it's still so fresh in your mind? Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in my next video. Bye.